Living with air pollution in Britain is killing us. It causes around 40,000 early deaths a year. So what are we doing about it? Well, not much. 5 UK cities will have clean air zones by 2020, where the most polluting buses, taxis, coaches and lorries will be charged to drive. Birmingham, Leeds, Nottingham, Derby and Southampton can look forward to those, but private car owners won't be affected. How ridiculous. And as for the Mayor of London's new £10 toxicity charge on older, more polluting cars in city centres, I think it's simply a tax on people that don't have newer models. None of it deals with the scale of the problem and is proof that we're nowhere near the radical plan that we need. It's time to be honest. If on a given day pollutant levels are too high, we should stop cars coming into city centres. And even before this, we must overhaul public transport access in and around our cities. Yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's inconvenient, but it's our health, and the alternative will leave us gasping for breath.
Well, all of that's very easy for you to say, Graham, but I put to you, what about disabled people? What are they going to do?
That's the end of the question?
No. There's a list. Start with that.
Yeah. Disabled people, well, of course you have to have special situation for people.
So they can come in?
Well, of course,
okay,
yeah.
right,
You have to give people access. You can't deny them access.
What about the bloke who has to come and do some work on a boiler or something like that with all his tools, or a woman who has to... How are they going to get around?
Well, on a day when the pollutant levels are so high... I think there has to be alternatives for people to use, and you have to say, even if it's between certain times, Nick. The fact is, levels of pollution in this country, in our cities, are sometimes worse than places like Beijing. And we need to take drastic steps.
Emma's butler calls to tell her that the boiler's exploded and it's flooding and it's going down all the apartments. And you just say, sorry, can't come in because it's toxic.
I think you'd be mature enough to make an exemption for emergency situations
What about Nick's Pullman?
Sorry, don't worry about that. How's this all going to... How are you going to make these exemptions?
Because what you do is you monitor, which they're doing now, they're monitoring city centres, and the levels are getting to the point where they're literally killing people.
I agree with that. That's wrong.
So the fact is, the only way we can do something about it is on those particular days is to say that vehicles are banned from coming into the city centres.
Honestly, I want to restrict it to London briefly, though there are other cities. Do you honestly think anybody drives into London for pleasure?
No, they drive into London. A lot of them drive into London for convenience.
Yeah.
No, because they have to.
Do, Nick. I do.
Suppose you and, suppose a family watching this now want to go to the zoo, right? Want to take the kids to the zoo and Grandma as well.
Yep.
Why shouldn't they be able to drive the kids to the zoo?
Well, on days where the pollution's OK, then fine.
What, so we don't know whether we can go to the zoo on Tuesday, kids,
Paris,
because it might be polluted.
Paris...
I'll tell you what the solution is.
OK, Paris, just before you do, Paris has had to bring in, or they have brought in...
Well, hold on,
they've brought in pollution days where they've actually stopped and banned traffic coming in. That's actually freed up the city for people who use public transport to come in. It's freed up the city for people that want to walk and see the sights. It's freed up the city for cyclists. So the fact is that whilst I've said it on the opening, it's inconvenient. Of course it is. You have to be realistic that there are services and parts of city life that need transport. Disabled people, of course. You can't just draw a blanket ban and say people can't get around the city.
How am I meant to get to lunch? If I'm not sat in the back of my limousine, why can't I go?
But the alternative is, Nick, that we carry on the way we're going and we continue to kill.
No, I've got the solution.
Thousands of people.
It's my last offering. The solution is very simply. Unfortunately, what's caused the problem in a city such as London is that the cycle lanes have taken too much of the highway.
Ban cycling.
No,
You've been here
tunnel
with
underneath. Tunnel underneath, do what they've done in Brussels, great big tunnel underneath, it can all be dealt with, little roads where they all spring up, boom, done. Scrap HS2, it's a complete waste of money, build an underground ring road instead.
Do you remember when we talked about this before, you said the problem with London traffic is the cyclists, Nick, and we should get rid of the cycle lanes. Yes, you did.
No, I've just said.
I know, but admit you said it.
Tunnel.
Admit you said
Done.
it.
No, but
by the way, Graham,
Tunnel.
I've got a 2006 diesel, and when the T charge comes in, I'm going to have to pay 20 quid a day to drive into Harvey Nichols. But, you know, the problem is that I bought my diesel when the Labour government was saying, buy diesels, they are better for the environment. Now it turns out that they are 6 times more polluting. My diesel car is 6 times more polluting than a van or a bus. So, in fact, its private use is the real problem of diesels. And you actually gave a sort of exemption. You said these poor folks who've got older bangers like Rachel. We can't tax them. Well, actually, we probably should. The problem is that the fact they've now established diesel is a terrible pollutant and is causing childhood asthma and all this premature death means that there is no market whatsoever for our vehicles. So basically, I spent a lot of money buying a car which is now worthless.
So that has to be dealt with on a national level. Just before I go to Afua, history repeating itself, we've mentioned that before, but if you look at what happened in the 50s, have a look at this video, and then we say, what lessons have we learnt from this, albeit a different cause?
Thick fog is widespread as we go to press. Everybody is asking, will it become smog? Such as last winter killed more than 6,000 people in the London area alone. We have been warned, but smoke still comes from many factory chimneys, while from the open fires of houses, the evil pours in even greater volume.
Well, it's nice to see your presenting voice, Nick. It's matured over the years.
This is Greg Dyke actually doing the voiceover.
Afua.
I mean, I'm ashamed to say that I also have a diesel car, and I think that we have to do something radical. But, you know, the first thing I want to say is that I just wish our knee-jerk reaction wasn't always to fine or tax people. Why can't we have incentives? I would love to buy an electric car. They're so expensive. They're prohibitively expensive. All the government subsidies were risible. You know.
I want a Tesla.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would accept a subsidy to buy a Tesla. But the point is, we've got, you know, there are technological solutions to a lot of this, and they're completely unaffordable for most people. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, you know, when you really look at the numbers, 40,000 people a year dying, early deaths. Imagine if there were 40,000 people a year dying in terrorist attacks. Would we say business as usual? I mean, it's an astonishing figure. People are literally dying early. We have to do something radical. Nick, you know, the inconvenience of not being able to get your boiler fixed that day is completely minor in the face of what we're facing. I mean, the idea that this is just because of people going to the zoo, a boiler needing to be fixed, and disabled people is a joke. There's
I've
lots
solved
of
it. A
unnecessary
tunnel. I keep saying a
In
tunnel is
one
done.
location.
Well, lots of tunnels.
Tunnel.
To build tunnels. It would
Emma?
be great.
I always find it really hard, and I think I speak for most people, I'm not an expert at all in this area, but when you read that many people are dying, you sort of can't believe it, because you think to yourself, well, you're just walking around and breathing, but you don't think what you're breathing in.
Well, 'cause it's invisible.
Apparently I live in one of the worst boroughs in London for air pollution. There's always stories about it, but you just accept it.
Yeah.
So I am in favour of different solutions. I also, was reading the other day about the pollution caused by the livestock industry, which we do absolutely nothing about, for the amount of water that's generated for that. This is about cities, I accept. But the point is there are much bigger things other than cars to consider.
There are, but if we can't deal with the car issue, I think potentially that's staring us in the face, that issue. If we want health and we want to prioritise health, we're going to have to do something radical about it, because the way we're going...
And more people could walk, which would mean Obesity Britain.
There you go.
Solution. Nick, you could walk to your...
So, healthy living...
Not where I lunch.
We're going to end on healthy living, so let's all walk off with a positive, even you, Nick. OK.
Very good.
So,